Hi, my name is Tim Coe, and I would like to give a talk on TCP throughput. Now, TCP, as you know, is Internet major um, transport layer protocols, and it has delay components to it due to the flow control and also the congestion control. It also have a loss component to it. Packet could be lost either at the routers or it could be corrupted by transmissions, during the transmissions. So this is the talk about the throughput under both flow control and congestion control. So let's look at the slide. So the content for today is I first write up the result and one application, and then talk about the background for TCP and UDP. And then in particular, I want to address the TCP flow control and the TCP congestion control. The idea here and the TCP congestion control. And then I will look at a throughput calculation method using a periodical model. And then finish up by concluding remarks and propose some exercise for you to do, okay? Okay, about the results. The result is quite simple. It's this simple relationship that is the throughput, the packet per second. Sorry. I just adjust it. Oh, adjust it. Okay. And then the result is this relationship. Okay. That is the minimum of the flow control. This component is due to flow control. This component is due to congestion control. So I will derive some of those results to you today. And the exercise about a connection between a sender, receiver, average round trip time, 0.1 second, and a timeout period of 0.4 second. Okay. Now, timeout period, once you do not receive acknowledgement after timeout period, you retransmit it. So you're transmitting old packets. And therefore, the throughput is not included in the throughput. Okay. So the average throughput is given by this simple relationship, and that is basically correct for a small value or packet loss probability. Okay, in this example, I use a packet loss of 1 packet out of 500 packets have been lost or corrupted. Okay, and so for small p, this relation is correct. Okay. Now, if you do the simple, and one more thing, the RWM, there's a WM value here of specified the WM value of divided by 0.1, RTT is 0.1. So WM value is, in this example here, is equal to 16. That is the receiver flow control is the maximum value the receiver can receive per RTT is 16 packets, or 16, the window size is 16. So it is basically the WM divided by RTT, 160, okay? So, and the other, with P equal to 0.002, and that is 273. So the minimum of those two is 160 packet, which is based on the flow control, okay? And WM is 16, and flow control, receive window size is a dominant factor in the throughput calculation. Okay, with this, I will just proceed and look into the details. Okay, just a background, transport layer protocol. For the internet, there are two types. One is the TCP, as we are going to address it today, and the other one is UDP. So the background for TCP is a reliable, connection-orientated, full duplex, point-to-point transport layer protocol. Okay, and retransmission of error packets or loss, adaptive rate to the fully utilized link capacity. So the rate is not fixed. So depending on who is sharing that link with and how many of those sharings are made. So you try to send as much as possible and avoid the congestion, okay? Now, often used for non-real-time applications. While UDP has no connection and have no error control, no flow control, and if you out of sync, the packet will just drop. It's used for real-time applications. Okay, so that is the background for UDP and TCP. The function of TCP are basically sending packets, and then let the maximum transmission unit is sitting into the payload for the IP packets, okay? So if a data packet or data segment is called in transport layer, is lost, retransmission is required. So the TCP maintained the retransmission timeout period. So what happened is, after the RTO period, if I have not received acknowledgement for a particular packet, then the packet's assumed to be lost. So data is retransmitted. It also triggers off some mechanism. When you lost a packet, when you retransmit a packet, you trigger off some mechanism for adjustment, okay? Now the RTO must be bigger than the RTT, the round trip time, okay? It must include the propagation delay, header processing time, acknowledgement generation time. So all this heading overhead has to be taken into account for. And of course, remember, RTT is not constant. Well, it's changing because of the loading of each link. So RTO is not constant. Now, if you set the RTO, which is the retransmission timeout time, too small, you will send packet more often, which is unnecessary. Now, if you set it too long, then the RTO will be, you have to wait a long time, long delay when losses occur. So it's always a compromise between what's too long, what's too short. And remember, RTT is changing as well, okay? So it's adaptive. So let's see how those adaptive can be taken into account. Now, this is the estimate value RTT, which is used by, okay? Now, they are alpha values. So in fact, estimate RTT and RTO is something old, something new. You keep most of the old and make this new in component add to it, okay? So let's look at what happened. What happened if I have an alpha value of 0.1025 or 1/8? So with that, the estimate RTT is the 7/8 of the last estimate RTT plus 1/8 of the actual RTT, okay, which is the measure, the most recent measure RTT. So what happened is basically most are old plus some are new. So you slowly adjust and adapt to the new RTT value without changing too abruptly, okay? Again, if you look at the retransmission timeout, which is a component we have to adjust for, you take the RTT as the new estimate RTT here, And take it in two ways. You take it here, and you take it here. Okay. So the RTO is the new estimate RTT plus 4 times the deviation. What are the deviation? The deviation is the log 7/8 of the last deviation plus 1/8 the difference between the most measured RTT minus the estimate RTT. Okay. So basically, it just again adjust something old, something new. All right. So with this, and we go down a bit. First of all, we just look at the flow control. What's flow control? You basically prevent a fast sender and overwhelm a slow receiver. Okay, a receiver could be doing several operations, have several apps going on at the same time. So it just tells the sender, don't send more than particular amount. The value they advertise is WM, the maximum number of packets you can send per RTT. Okay, so per window. So Windows, so that is the window size for the receiver. Make sure the receiver have the capacity to operate. So the TCP flow can adjust the sending rate to prevent receiver buffer overflow. The TCP flow can using a sliding window scheme. The window size control the number of packets to transmit. And once you receive acknowledgement, then you can send another additional packets. Okay, so this is the window size. Okay, sliding window scheme. Okay, so the TCP the WM can be adjusted. So when the receiver finds there's too many operations, they want to slow down the WM, they can send the WM adjustment at the acknowledgement, which is going back to the sender and the acknowledgement segments. Okay, so those are adjustable. Okay, but basically the calculation we see later assume within the window size, within the time frame you're looking at, those WM is constant. So make it simple. Okay, so what is the congestion control? We just talked about flow control. Congestion control is basically the prevent the buffer overflow in the intermediate routers. So when I send something to you, I'll probably go through several routers before you reach you. Now the routers are shared amongst many routes or many links. So the particular link to you can be shared by several incoming ports, okay? So, or incoming links. So what happened is there is possibility the routers are overflow in the link which is forward to you, okay? Each router is connected to many flows. So you TCP using congestion window size for congestion control and send the receiver, so it's a receiver minimum and a congestion window. So the sending rate is the minimum of those two. Example, if I have a receiver advertised window due to flow control is 10, and the congestion control is possible 12, in that case, the sending rate will be 10. Okay. Assume congestion whenever RTO expire. So when you have retransmission timeout expire and no acknowledgement for a particular packet is received, then that is a congestion. Okay. So for every packet that is acknowledgement, can be one acknowledgement for each packet, or can be one acknowledgement for multiple packets. But if I do not receive acknowledgement after RTO, then I know that is something lost. Okay. Now, and then you readjust the window size again, which we're going to show you later. Okay. TCP end-to-end protocol implement on top of multiple best effort IP datagram networks. That is TCP the transport layer protocol, and it can be implemented on top of several IP packet networks, okay? So now this is important here. The congestion control is required because TCP does not know the capacity or the condition different links. So if TCP just sending very slowly, that's fine. But what happens if you want to go send as quickly possible, utilize as much capacity as possible, then TCP, the congestion rate has to be adjusted. Okay? So starting slowly and getting up to a certain value, and up to a certain value, then you might lose 1 or 2 packets, and then you readjust it again. So you just may slowly adaptive to what is possible, what is the maximum possible. So you can see TCP is a delay system. The congestion happened, then because the packet from many connections greater than the link capacity, okay? So a congestion packet is still sending from the source until receive the congestion notification. And in this case, congestion notification is RTO. So if I'll keep on sending my packet until I say the RTO is exceeded without receiving acknowledgement. In that case, I know something wrong, then I'll adjust the sending rate. And that adjustment can take certain delay time, okay? So packets are lost in the router because buffer is overflow, and then they are continue losing packets until the sender slow down the sending rate. So there are congestion control mechanism, okay? I just point this to, I'll come back to this because I think better show you the pictures of this. It's easy to understand. There's a phase called slow start. Now, slow start is a little bit a misnomer because it's not actually too slow, actually doubling the window size for every round trip time, okay? So it doubled the window size. So for round trip time, start with 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, okay, 32. So it quickly adjusts to the maximum available. Now at the congestion avoidance, it just increase one's window size at a time after RTT, round trip time, okay? Now that is increased when near full capacities, okay? And what happened when there's something wrong, then they will reduce it, the sending rate by half, or one scheme is, okay, TCP we know. And so the when RTO exceeded and no acknowledgement, then we just drop the window size sending rate into half of what it was before. Okay, so let's look at the pictures. This is the picture. The slow start actually starts with 1, 2, 4, 16 for each RTT. Okay, and when you reach certain value, you lose a packet, and then you drop to the that value divided by 2. Okay, half. And then we're going to congestion phase. So that is 1 RTT for each RTT increased by 1. Okay, so 1 out for each round trip time, you increase window size by 1. That is when you receive all the acknowledgement from W packets, and then you next time you adjust the sending rate for W plus 1. Okay. So that is basically the slow start, congestion avoidance phase, and that is the multiplicative decrease. So from W into W and half. Okay. So basically we are focused on this part. this is the starting part, and this is the operation part. Okay, so what we are focusing is this. This is a sawtooth operation. Okay, so what we call sawtooth operation is a additive increase once at a time for one RTT, and then multiplicative decrease. So you drop from W to W.5. Okay, so give rise to what we call sawtooth, that's like the tooth in the saw. Okay, so we want to calculate the amount of throughput you can have for packets within a certain period, for example. So we want to calculate how many packets are sent within this period, okay? And why we want to do that, that number of packets is equal to the inverse of the loss probability. Okay, I'll talk about a bit more later on this. So this is the TCP throughput for congestion control using a periodical model. So the periodic model which we are using is quite simple and is what we call a trapezoidal shaped, which is this shape. Okay, let me just easier for me to just draw it. So we just want to isolate one typical phase. Okay, and then drop into here. That is W at the rate W is the maximum window size. Here is W.5. That is when you lost a packet, then you drop to W.5, and the next phase go up like this. Okay, so we want to know how many packets are sent within this two. One is rectangle, one is the triangle. Okay, so don't forget there's a mechanism. So let's look at this. Additive increase, multiple decrease TCP mechanism give rise to a simple sawtooth between W and W.5. 1P packet transmitted between each packet loss. Okay, that is a period of T. Okay, so we want to know what T is. And what is that number of packet? We assume they are a loss rate, 1%, 0.5%, okay? So the number of packets sent, is equal to 1 over inverse of P. So if you, what does it simply say? If you have 1%, P is 1%, then you basically, you see you're losing 1 packet for every 100 packets. Okay. So the idea is how many steps there are for changing from W2 to W. Okay, that is that part of it, and there's that part of it. That's W2. How many steps are they? And they are T divided by RTT. Why? Because the window size increased by 1 for every RTT. Okay, so that with that in mind, then we can calculate how many packets inside this, underneath the shapes. How many? That is this one. T, that is the rectangle. That is the lower part. And it's triangle, which is half. That is the upper part. Okay. So with that, we have this relationship, and that's equal to 1 over P. All right. So we have number of packets sent is 1 over P, which is equal to T over RTT, and WT, okay. Now what about T? Okay, so we also know within T over RTT, it have increment a window size of W divided by 2. Okay, so in fact, we can replace T by this relationship. Okay, so if you do that, T over RTT is equal to WN2, then you have this go into here. Okay, and therefore W is just window is a function of the loss probability. Okay, this we will use later on. Okay. Now the W could be changing, but our assumption is W, the P could be changing the loss probability, but we assume it will be constant. Okay. And why can we do that? Because P could be slowly changing compared to the TCP flow control. So, and the congestion control. So if you have Schooner constant, they make it easier to calculate and give you some idea of the throughput of TCP. So with that, what we have done so far is we want to find the rate. So that is remember what we've seen before. So you send out one P packet over period T. Okay, so the throughput is this. Okay, and we know what T is. T is equal to T over RTT is equal to W on 2. So we have this. Okay, T is W on 2 in this. And we know what W is. Okay. So basically it's 1 over P divided by RTT. W is 8 over 3 P. And then we combine the, put 2 inside here, and then combine the P up here and down here, and you have this expression. Okay, so basically this is the inverse square root over P law. It's inverse here and the square root of P. So if you know RTT, if you know P, then you know the throughput. Okay, this is work very well when P is small, or when P is less than 1% or around 1%. So with that in mind, we have come to the conclusion. So TCP congestion control require the estimation of RTT, which take into account the retransmission timeout. Retransmission timeout is important because once the packet once the sender have not received acknowledgement for a packet after RTO, they assume the packet is lost and retransmission is necessary. And then there is a congestion, there's a loss probability of P. Okay, and within the time, within the period between sending from W½ to W, and you have send out 1 over P packets. Okay, so and the congestion control AIMD, additive increase, multiple decrease mechanism, produce a simple sawtooth plot, and we utilize the geometric shapes of the sawtooth plot to calculate the throughput due to congestion control. Now, what about for flow control? Flow control is quite simple. The advertised window size, which is assumed to be constant, and and divide by RTT. So one round trip time, you can only send out maximum of WM due to flow control. And the final throughput is the minimum of either congestion control and the flow control. So which one is smaller? Okay. So if this is smaller, then you take this is the maximum throughput. Okay, as in the case of the example I showed you earlier today. So the last part is the exercise I want you to have a look at, which is a real-time exercise. So what happened is you have RTT, RTO, and WM, and probability of 0.5%. Okay, so loss probability 0.5%. So you can calculate the throughput due to flow control, throughput due to congestion control. Okay, for this value of 0.5% loss probability. Okay, so then you can do the exercise for this after this talk. Okay, so with that remarks, I think I complete the talk for today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.